Good day everyone, I am Herlin Dahay and our lesson for today is Steps in Portfolio Development. For our objectives, at the end of the lesson, the students can first, elaborate the steps in making a portfolio. Second, recognize new efficient steps in making a portfolio. And lastly, create a portfolio containing classworks and activities. So, before we formally start our lesson, let us first have a review. What are the principles of portfolio assessment? What are the types of portfolio? To start our discussion, let us first have a 4-minute quiz. Get a 1/4 sheet of paper and answer the following questions. Time's up. Pass your papers. Now, let me present to you the steps in portfolio development. First is set goals. Second, collect. Third, select. Fourth, organize. Then reflect, evaluate, confer or exhibit, and lastly, again, set goals. For our first step, set goals. This is the first step in portfolio assessment in which the students set their goals in developing a learning portfolio. To guide the students in stating their goals, the teachers may articulate the first goals of the course and subject and his or her expectation to the students. Students could also ask what their parents expect for them so that they could also be given goal-setting planners. So in setting goals or in set goals, teachers are tasked to set the goals for the learners, and the goals must be chosen if it's for documentary, for evaluation, or exhibit or showcasing for the students to showcase or exhibit their abilities. Next is collect. In this stage, the student should start collecting all possible entries in their portfolio. They should be advised to have a temporary container for all their entries, and this should be placed in school so that keeping of entries will be part of the daily activities of the students. So back in our high school years, we are tasked to make a portfolio, and this portfolio contains our classworks, activities, assignments, and assessments, which is placed in a container or in a folder and is kept in school for the purpose of not changing our answers. So this portfolio is a collection of our activities for the purpose of reflections and self-assessment. During those years from our junior high school to senior high school, this portfolio serves an assessment or an evaluation. So we have our portfolio from from the first grading till the fourth grading compiled, and these activities will be reflected at the end of the grading. So this is the sample of a goal setting planner. First is I participate in this activity because. Next is I am doing this work because. And lastly, what I target to accomplish are. So I participate in this activity because I want to showcase or to exhibit my talents and abilities. I am doing this work because it is important on my chosen activity or in my chosen field. And what I target to accomplish are to see my growth and learning during the process, and also to evaluate myself on my strengths and weaknesses. That's all.
I'm Olive May P. Andrada, and this is the continuation of the steps in developing portfolio development. So the third step is select. In here, the students are asked to select what will finally be used to gauge their success from all their collections of possible entries in a portfolio. The selection usually depends on what the teacher requires them to do, second, their parents' choice, and the entries that they personally choose as the best gauge of their accomplishment in the program. Moreover, in the selection of evidence, they can add the in and out activities that they participated. Now, for our next step, we have organize. In here, the students decide on how they will organize their entries. The organizer could be of any material, but it is suggested that the container is something flexible. So why it is something that should be flexible? For them to add, delete, or modify any entries at any time. Here are the examples: clear book, album, box with dividers, envelopes, colored magazines, CDs, and flash drive. Also, in this step, the students will have the opportunity to be creative and be resourceful. Now, for our fifth step in portfolio development is reflect. Reflect is an important trait of a portfolio since it is the presence of students' reflections on their experiences. They can make reflective journals, log of entries, and labeling and evidence are just some of the different ways to show their knowledge, understanding, attitudes, values, writing skills, and creativity. In this step, it will provide opportunity for the students to reflect on their experiences in the classroom and also the impact of the teaching strategies of their teachers. Now, for our next step, we have evaluate. This is the sixth step of portfolio development. In here, the students, their peers, and teachers, or even the parents are involved in rating the achievement of the students based on their evidence of learning, the reflections of their experiences, and the organizations of their portfolio. The rubrics are often used in rating students' performance using their portfolios. Usually, rubrics in rating portfolio are given to the students ahead of time or at the beginning of the portfolio process. In this way, the students are guided on what to put in their portfolio and how to organize their entries. Also, knowing the rubric at the beginning of the portfolio process helps you to have a successful portfolio in a creative way.
I am Miss Rosemary De Los Reyes. Now we'll continue the discussion about the steps in portfolio development. So, the next step is confer. This is the stage when the teachers confer with the students or the parents to discuss the students' performance and the progress of learning. So, this is where the teachers communicates with the students or the parents about the overall performance of the student, the behavior of the students, and the achievement of the students, or the overall status of the student during the learning process. This is also the time to congratulate the students for their accomplishments or to help them identify areas for their improvement. It is important that we acknowledge and recognize the achievements and the accomplishments of our students, as well as the areas where they need improvement, because this will help them assess themselves, what they can do to showcase and bring out the best in them, and also to discover the strengths and weaknesses to improve their performance during the learning process, because this will inspire the students to learn more. The next step is exhibit. This is the time to celebrate success in the form of an exhibit of students' portfolios. This is the time where the creativity and the achievement of the students will be showcased. And of course, the highlight of the exhibit is the awarding of the best learning portfolio. Of course, we need to appreciate and award the students who did much effort in completing his portfolio. Again, since reading, viewing, or exploring the internet need time from you, they should be done outside the class time. Your class time then should be reserved to clarify with your teacher your confusions, to interact with your classmate on what they have understood and probably found out different from what you have discovered from your own exploration. Of course, the class time should not be spent on surfing the web and exploring on ideas that you don't know yet, but it is interacting with your classmate. And if you have some clarification and something that you don't understand, you have your teacher to interact with you, and you can ask your questions with your teacher, because there is more than what you have explored in the internet and more than what you have in your mind. There is another ideas that may come from your classmates and your teachers. Next are the example of portfolio. Portfolios can be a physical collection of student work that includes materials such as written assignments, journal entries, completed tests, artwork, lab reports, physical projects such as dioramas or models. So here we have a student journal or a weekly journal logs, which shows the experience of the student, what students understood during that week about the discussion. Next example, we have here the creative assignments of the students and the solutions of the students to the problems given to her by her teacher. So these are just some examples of portfolios done by the students, and there are a whole lot more portfolios that the teacher can use to assess the students during the learning process.
Now that we are done discussing the 8 steps in portfolio development, we will have an activity. Each of you will create their own course portfolio with these following questions as their guide. Number 1, what do I want to assess about you through your learning portfolios? Number 2, what are the important evidence that you should produce to prove that you have successfully performed the significant learning outcomes of the course? And number 3, how do you know that these evidence you will produce are worth keeping and showing to school principals or educational institutions when you apply for a teaching job? And this is your sample format for your course portfolio plan. And take note of this rubric. Now get your materials that I asked of you last week, and now you may start your course portfolio plan. I will give you 20 minutes to do it. Now the 20 minutes had passed. Please pass your portfolios. Thank you. Now that we have done the activity, let's have an evaluation. You may get a one whole sheet of paper and explain briefly the 8 steps in portfolio development. You only have 10 minutes to answer. Okay, 10 minutes is now done. Please pass your paper. Now, for your assignment, research about the rubrics and its different types. Goodbye class and see you next week.